Hi friends, welcome to my craft studio. I'm Marcia and today I'm going to paint some rocks using mostly just dots, and I hope you're going to join me. The first thing we're going to have to do is talk about what kind of supplies you need. I'm using a vinyl tablecloth to cover my work surface so I don't get paint on it, and I'm wearing an oversized shirt with long sleeves because sometimes I'm messy and I don't want to get paint on my clothes. You do what you want. The acrylic paint I'm using is water-based, but I found that even though it washes off my hands easily, sometimes it doesn't wash out of fabric. You're also going to need a lot of different colors of paint. I've got some acrylic paints here, and then you're going to need tools to make those dots. I've got a whole bunch of paint brushes here. We're going to use this end of the paintbrush, not the bristle end. You might also want to get a pencil with a good eraser. That makes a nice dot with that eraser. You could also use some bamboo skewers, and you can use either end. This will make a tiny dot, this will make a bigger one. And then for a little tiny dot, there are toothpicks. They're good. If you want something a little bigger, you might use a wooden spoon. Think about it, you can decide what it is you want. Then you're going to need a container with a little bit of water. You'll need some paper towels and maybe some wet wipes or some vinyl gloves for your hands. The other most important thing is a rock. You're going to have to get some rocks. And what I do is I go out in my backyard because I've got lots of rocks. And I look for something that is pretty round and sort of flat, but mostly I'm looking for one that is smooth because it's hard to do dots on something that's rough. And then we're going to paint the background of this rock. And I usually go with a dark color, and my go-to color seems to be black. And when I paint it, I just squirt a little paint on a recycled plastic lid. And then I want to paint all the way down the sides so that when it's sitting on the ground or on a porch or wherever it's going to be, that it looks like the whole thing was painted. You can paint the whole rock, but then you're going to have to wait for one side to dry and turn it over and paint the other. So for this, you can use brush-on paint or you can use spray paint. Whatever you have on hand is fine. Now this is going to take about 20 minutes for it to dry, so I'm thinking this might be a good time for you to collect your tools and to think about what you want to paint on your rock, and maybe you need an inspiration. I would recommend go online and look for Mandala rocks. There are lots of images of beautiful Mandala rocks. Now, if you were to buy one of these, it would be expensive. But just think, you're going to make your own for next to nothing. So we'll see you in a few minutes after you've collected yours, and we'll continue working. Okay, I bet you're ready to start now. You might have been overwhelmed by some of those images thinking, hey, this is the first time I ever did anything like this. I don't want to do something that complicated. Well, here are some that I made that aren't that complicated. I started out in the center with a dot that I made with my pencil eraser, and I put that as close to the middle as I could find, and then I used another color and a little bit smaller surface that I could make the dots with, and just circled around the dot. Now what I try to do is go from one side to the other, so I would start here and then try and go directly across, and then from here to there, and then fill in the space between, trying to use the same number of dots so it's rather symmetrical. I keep working out towards the outer edge so that I won't smear it with my hand when I'm painting. And then you can always let it dry for a while and go back and fill in more dots, especially these little dots. Or the other thing is, for the mandala dots, you're going to have to let it sit for a while and dry because they pile their dots up on one another. So here's one that I just put the second dot on after the first one was dry. Now, when you're doing this, if you make a little error, maybe your dot isn't quite round, or it got smeared a little bit, just take a little bit of paper towel, dip it in that water, and just wipe it off. And when it's dry, you can go back and put one on you like better. But remember, none of us is perfect, only God's perfect, and your rock will be beautiful even if it's not exactly perfect. It'll be your creation. So just work at it and make it what it is. Now, here are some other examples of ones I made if you don't want to do the mandala. This one I made around Valentine's Day, and it's a little heart, and I put little tiny dots with a toothpick to make it look like it's kind of lacy. And then can you tell that this is kind of a fanciful ladybug? Now, she's got lots of different kinds of dots on there, but did you know that ladybugs are not all the same color? Some are red, but some are orange and some are black. And they have different size dots, and they have different numbers of dots. I've seen ladybugs that only have one dot on each side. I've seen others that have a whole lot of dots, and some of them are big dots, some are little dots. So be creative. God was, you do what you want there, and you could make a bug. Now, here are some little ones that I made that really are just little flowers, and it was just little dots I put on there. So just do what you want, do what you feel up to. Now, when you're done with that, you're gonna wanna let it dry. And I like to finish it off with a coat of spray polyurethane, or maybe even 2 coats. And that helps them keep their color. And then if they get wet from the rain or something, the dots won't fall off or slide off either. So that's the last step. And once you've finished all of that, you might be thinking about, well, where am I going to put these rocks? Well, I'll tell you where I have some of ours. Some of them are in flower beds, some of them are along a path, and some of them are ones that I just gave away. So I think some of these might end up down at our community mailboxes for anyone who wants them to take them and just have a little anonymous gift. It might pick up somebody's day. So do what you want with your rocks. But I want to tell you something. I'm doing this YouTube video because years ago, I started something that I called The Gathering. I was feeling kind of like I needed more time with friends, and there were things going on that just made it hard to get together with people. And so I began to ask around and see if anybody else was feeling the same way. And I found a lot of people were. They wanted more time with friends, wanted a chance to visit and just catch up and find out what's going on in people's lives. And so I thought, well, I have this space. I've always loved to create, and ever since a child, I've been crafting. So I have lots of crafting supplies that I could donate, and I could have people come here and we could do crafts together. So we started doing them about once a month, and anyone who wanted to could come, and it could be a child up to someone my age. There was no limit there. And then we decided on a variety of projects that we worked on. I didn't always do the instructing. Sometimes somebody else came to me with an idea and they were willing to teach that. And so we had a lot of fun doing this, but mostly it was about friendship. So I started again after COVID. We had had a couple of years where, of course, everything was shut down, and people began to come to me and say, when are you going to start the gathering again? So I had a couple of events, and then I began to realize there were several people that were saying, oh, I wish I could come. That project sounds like so much fun, but I can't because of my schedule. And I thought, well, how could I do this so that people can do it when it's convenient for them? And I decided I would do YouTube videos. But since this is mostly about relationships, how could I have that happen? Well, I'm going to challenge you. Find somebody else that would like a little time with you and maybe enjoys crafts. get together, watch another one of my videos, and spend some time just visiting with one another and encouraging one another. I hope you'll come back again. Remember, this is Marsha's Craft Studio, and look for some more fun projects. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.